Okay. I just want to do a quick chat on oneness. Um, the most important thing to realize about oneness, and this is important, I had a lot of hippie, new age friends that are into energy and oneness and Reiki masters, and they all have their opinions of oneness and one with the universe, and they try to act out this oneness. The thing is, though, is that the one thing about oneness is you can't know what it is. Through oneness, all the things that are eternal, infinite, and timeless are expressed. All those things can't be quantified. You cannot quantify, count, or measure the eternal, the infinite, or the timeless. So to think you know what oneness is, it's impossible. The only thing that you can know about oneness is that you don't know anything about it. Now, mathematically, I'm going to just show you quickly, either this or that. You have basically -1, +1, the root of +1, and the root of -1. That circle represents oneness. The thing is, though, is that you can't root a negative number. If you know two negatives equals positive, I found this interesting. Somebody explained this using food, not math. If I say do not eat, it means don't eat. But if I say do not eat, it reverses it. It means to eat again. What this means that is that everything on the bottom half of this circle, it can't be defined. I equals the impossible number. You cannot root a negative. So what I want to imagine is imagine the top half is heaven and the bottom half is earth, or the multiverse in our universe. And imagine that earth is a reflection of heaven. Now, the important thing is if you're looking into a mirror, if I lift my right arm in the mirror, my opposite, my right arm should lift, but it's my left arm in the mirror because it's a reflection. And that's basically the premise is that imagine right now you're looking in a mirror. So everything that you see is real, but you're seeing the reflection of it, which is the opposite. So Earth being a reflection of heaven, there's a quote that says, as above, so below. This gets interesting because if you go into quantum physics, they're basically saying that every atom in the universe is conscious. We live in a completely conscious universe. The only thing that's actually not conscious is humans. And I don't mean physically, I mean actually consciously, as in your ego, your identity, or your mind. Going by the original story, in the beginning was God, all God, only God. I'll talk about the all-knowing part a little bit after because that's a very significant factor to me. But it's all God, only God. There's no other substance or energy in the universe. So what could God make everything out of, assuming there is a God? And people say it's God. He can make it out of anything. There's no such thing as anything. There's no anything. There's no nothing. There's only this one energy. So everything material created in this energy emanates and is created and is of the original source. We'll use the word God. Um, it's interesting that quantum physics basically starts looking into the material world and going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into atoms and protons and electrons and then your quarks and your string. And it basically goes down to the fact that it's almost nothing. And if you look at religiously, End Sof is nothingness without end. So quantum physics is sharing a lot of amazing things right now. The problem is that ancient mystics and ancient wisdom has been talking about it for thousands of years. So quantum physics is just catching up and they're just entering the conversation, although they're doing it very arrogantly, like they're figuring something out and they've been dismissing religion all this years. It's consciousness. We do not live in a material universe. We live in a conscious universe. So we think that the material, exploding star, and then we came out of like some hydrogen and heat and a rock, that I have consciousness and feelings and thoughts out of matter. We live in a conscious universe. Out of consciousness came the physical universe and matter. That's very easy to see. Think about your dream tonight. If you go to sleep right now, you have a dream. The second your dream starts, you've created a whole universe. You look out the window, there's the sun, there's the sky, there's the night, there's stars. You've created everything, this whole building, the walls, the table, the chairs, myself, anyone who's in my dream. They're not actually in my dream. They're a creation of my consciousness. So this now is oneness. In my dream, I'm first person. If it's a nightmare and there's some guy chasing me with an axe, I created that person. That person is my consciousness, but I'm not controlling them. The whole universe in my dream is my consciousness. I've also created physical matter because I'm sitting in a chair, and if I get hit in the head with a baseball bat, I feel it. They're solid objects within the dream, and that's how material comes out of consciousness. So now take me out of the equation. Now imagine that this is God's dream. Okay, so you know the story, 6 days or whatever, he creates the earth. On the seventh day, he rests. I want you to imagine that God's actually sleeping. If you don't believe in God, that's fine. Take it on as a hypothetical. Imagine he's sleeping right now. He's the dream, the whole dream, everything in the dream, and everyone in the dream. There's 8 billion of us right now. Imagine that one of us has to wake up. And to wake up in the dream would be to entangle yourself with God, Alpha, Omega, beginning and the end, Father and the Son, or Einstein, I think, talked about spooky action at a distance, quantum entanglement. If you've looked now, they've entangled the two particles apparently, and it forms the yin-yang symbol. We're stuck on one side, either the white or the dark, or white or black, light or dark, doesn't matter. But we can't see the other side. It's like looking at a coin. If you take a coin, you can only see one side. You can never see two sides at the same time. The way to see the side is if you have a mirror. And now you can see the reflection, and it'll show you both sides. If you ever went to the barber as a kid, I used to love it. You go to the barber and they have the mirror in front of you and the mirror behind you, and it becomes an infinity mirror because all it does is splice into mirrors. So that's basically it. What's happening is that we're looking at the world through the filter of time. And I'm going to explain that quickly. I know we see it as a linear straight line, but almost imagine it as a triangle where you go past, present, and future. So imagine right now that this is the eternal now. Now it's going to take you time to hear that. It's going to take you time to see it. And then it's going to take you time to react, whether emotionally or intellectually. So here's the eternal now, or God. And there's you within your dimension of time. There's the now. And again, there's you. And that's just a repetition. So basically, you're locked in within this dimension of time. And time's a very interesting thing. They talk about, the fourth dimension, one dimension's a line, two dimensions, three dimensions, 3D. And then the fourth dimension would be time. And then, talking about more the fifth dimension into consciousness. Most people think that we're sharing the same time. So if I happen to look at my phone right now, it's 1:44. If I'm here with people, then it would be 1:44 for all of us. That's a partial truth. The greater truth, though, is that we all have our own individual relationship with time. Now, I have my relationship with time. You have your relationship with time. Somebody else has their relationship with time. This is very simple and easy to understand. If I was to die right now, my time ends and yours would continue. And that's what I want you to understand about having your own relationship with time, because this is very significant. So basically, there's the oneness of the universe, whether you call it God, the Big Bang, doesn't matter. And then there's you. When you die, you would basically go back into that. If you figure out a way to die within, to basically silence your mind and no longer to quantify on the deepest of level, the universe would basically come into you. There's the biblical quote, "Be still and know that I am." There's another quote that, "To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders." So if you imagine in the beginning, there's the universe or God, and there's the will of God. How do you have free will? How do you have the choice to go out and do good or do evil, to pet a dog or to kick a dog, whatever your choice is? You have free will because the source would have had to surrender its will, so you have your will. So if God's considered one of his highest acts, you think of love and truth, but imagine it being surrender. Imagine God surrendered himself so that you have free will. Your highest act in this world would be to surrender that will back, because it would mirror the action of God. So all religion happens to be about surrender. Buddhists are meditating and they're surrendering self. You think of a Hindu, a yogi doing postures and pranayama and basically surrendering the self. Christ hanging on the cross is obviously surrender. Islam, besides meaning peace, it actually means to submit or to surrender. It's to surrender to the oneness or to truth. All you have is a reaction or perception of that truth. And you're basically reacting within this dimension of time. If you ever move beyond yourself, then you could touch on the things outside of time. Really quickly, consider Buddha going so deep that he lets go or surrenders his mind. But imagine a crazy person loses their mind. The key here is that they're both out of their mind. And that's basically what a singularity is. One is not quantifying because they're in silence, and the other one isn't quantifying properly. So if you look at this as truth and as a frequency or a vibration, both of them are out of their mind, and that's basically what a singularity is. That's what can kind of bridge the gap. And if you're talking about connecting to the multiverse or to heaven or those things, you think of your prophets, your messiahs, your gurus, things like that. So basically, imagine the world's moving through time, and it's just going to keep moving through time. What happens is one of us basically has to, when you think of the end of days, it's not the end of the world and the apocalypse, everyone dying. The end of days is the S, days, the plural. So it would be one day. Now there's a quote in the Bible that says 1 day for God is equal to 1,000 years. Okay, so now imagine that if you can create one perfect day for all of humanity, and then you would turn that day into 1,000 years, and that's the fulfillment of the prophecy. So I know I've gone off on quite a few tangents and talked about a lot of different things here, but the important thing is that we exist within duality. And the only way to get to oneness isn't from going from 2 to 1, because that's impossible. You would have to go from 2 to 3, and imagine a triangle, and you would triangulate, and in the center would be truth. What would that would be equivalent to is basically, if you consider the, I think I have the hat right here. All right, it's my Pink Floyd hat. So basically, let me get the camera here. This would be God's light, and this would be shining through. It would be too much for anyone to take in. A lot of people, when they get close to enlightenment or go really deep into stuff, there's a lot of psychosis that's involved. When you think of a Jedi, Star Wars, a guy becoming a Jedi, they say, be careful of the dark side. As you get higher and higher into consciousness or tap into the energy deeper, the swings on the top level are a lot bigger than just kind of on the lower level. So now here's your time. So you have, sorry, I'm looking at this backwards. Uh, you have past, present, and then past, present, and future. So basically, you have those three, and that's the filter. That's also your ego. And basically, as this light's coming through, it basically comes into the physical world. Sorry, I'm just really messing up with this because I'm looking in the camera, and every time I go this way, it's supposed to go that way. So I'm kind of butchering this a little bit. But basically, here we are. So this light's now coming into this world, but it's coming through the filter of time. When somebody goes so deep and surrenders their ego, they die within. Similar to dying, they also end the relationship with time. So that person would then become the filter of time. So now when you're talking about the alpha, the omega, the beginning and the end, the father of the son, quantum entanglement, you're talking about spooky action at a distance. That's all it is. There's string theories, but there's also a theory that it's just one string. So imagine the whole universe is just one string. Well, the beginning was the creation, and the last one would be the end. When you think of the apocalypse and the end of days, I don't want you to think of like everyone being destroyed and dying and the whole idea of that. The idea of Christ as the Prince of Peace. Remember, this is a conscious universe. So if this is a dream, one of us wakes up in the dream and entangles themselves with that consciousness. So I actually lost my train of thought there where I was going. So I might wrap it up and leave it at this. Um, but Father and Son, Alpha the Omega, it would basically be connecting the 2 points of the string, and basically spooky action as a distance. You think of the whole history of the world in the thousands or billions of years. Imagine that it's one moment, one eternal moment. And while you're perceiving it in time, imagine it's just one eternal revolution. And the ability to tap into that, that's basically what your pyramid is, the all-seeing eye. You basically close these two eyes, you open your third one. I'll leave it with this. Apparently when we see, it's upside down. Our eyes invert it and show it right side up. That's basically what I'm saying. Imagine you're looking in a reflection. Imagine the whole world is upside down. You guys are all seeing the truth, but you're seeing it in a reflection. So your reaction is within time, and it's not kind of the eternal aware higher self reaction that would normally happen. So that's basically it. Because we're locked in time, we experience the duality and division of the world. And basically, when one of us goes deep enough within, they would entangle themselves with the entire story, fulfill the prophecy, quantum entangle themselves with the whole universe. And that's basically the premise in the story that I'm kind of going to go deeper into. Imagine that it was you, and imagine that you entangled your whole life. So the whole biblical story from say 2,000 years ago, it would be you if you were the prophecy. So the idea that Jesus is going to come in the clouds is kind of funny. People think he's going to come floating on clouds. Well, I asked them, I said, do you know what the internet? And they're like, well, yeah, of course. Well, where do we store our data? In the clouds. So imagine that Jesus goes viral, everyone sees him, he comes in the clouds. To be born of a virgin, you're thinking, who's born of a virgin, maybe with artificial insemination. The thing is, though, is that don't think in terms of literal and within time. Imagine that this is the world story. Imagine that this is one person, like think of theatrically like a movie. It would be the world story. So instead of being born literally of a virgin, imagine being Virgo, the constellation of the Virgin. And then my initials MP match that. Jesus rose from the dead. That's my mom's name is Rose. There's a mystical society called the Rosicrucians, and their symbol is the Rose Cross. Well, my mom's name is Rose, but on my dad's side, my grandmother lived to 100 years old, and she was also Rose. So feminine energy. I was born of two roses, which is the Rose Cross. If you kind of go a little bit deeper into stuff, because I'm talking about full entanglement, imagine you're entangling yourself with everything. So it's math, science, history, philosophy, every aspect of the whole universe, movies, theater, books, art. But imagine the secret societies here. So what's funny is I've done this 30-year journey, and all my studies line up with everything on this side. Now imagine on the entanglement side, that's the Rose Cross, the Red Cross or the Rose Cross. I've told you, born of two roses. The second is the Order of Malta. I'm Maltese. There's not very many Maltese people in the world. You can go into the Maltese cross. It's a prime number cross. There's all kind of coding, and I can kind of go into more detail with that. And then the third one would be the Templars. There's in depth with the significance of Friday the 13th, Mark being the 13th letter in the alphabet. I can kind of link up the more historical story and link it through Malta and stuff like that. York Right is funny because I was actually born in Weston, but Weston's turned to York. My dentist in there was Dr. Schulman, which was Dan Schulman from the Blue Jays ESPN. His dad was my dentist. Um, so imagine that this is the mystical side. So imagine internally you do a mystical journey and entangles yourself with the universe, and then this would come true. On the religious side, I'll give you one little tidbit. So I kind of mentioned about losing your mind and about psychosis. In January of 2000, I had a drug-induced psychosis. I was 25 years old. I thought I was smoking weed. It was weed oil, and it had acetone in it, which is nail polish remover. Very dangerous. I smoked it for 2 weeks. I had a horrible drug-induced psychosis. Um, what you have to remember is I was out of my mind. So while an enlightened master like, say, Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, so much, there be a connection between heaven and earth or the multiverse and our universe. Imagine a crazy person. They're out of their mind. So they couldn't see or understand the multiverse, but imagine heaven or the multiverse could see them. Now, this is interesting because one is they say that Jesus was crucified and he rose on the third day, and you go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But there's a quote in the Bible that says, one day for God is like 1,000 years. So imagine if you're talking about Jesus, who they say is the Son of God, one day for God is like 1,000 years. Well, if he was crucified, the first day is 1,000 years, the second day is 2,000 years. The beginning of the third day, because most people would say, oh, the third day is 3,000 years. He doesn't rise at the end of the third day. You celebrate Easter in the morning. It's the beginning of the third day. The beginning of the third day would have been January 1st of 2000. So this is significant. Think of this in terms of the world story. Imagine if it's you. It's not just your individual life. Imagine you echo through eternity. So Y2K, January of 2000, when everyone thought the computers were going to crash, imagine it's your mind that crashes. And imagine that lines up the third day, the beginning of the third day. So that's kind of the beginning of the entanglement. When it comes to Revelations, it's funny. Revelations is St. John's. It's the kind of school I grew up in and went to church. The beginning is, I hate Nicolaitans, I hate Nicolaitans, I hate Nicolaitans. My sister's name is Nicole. She put me in a mental institution twice. But the thing is that what it talks about is when Archangel Michael came to battle the dragon. There's a dragon, a red dragon. There's a seven-headed dragon. There's the mark of the beast. There's a pregnant woman who 3.5 years before went off into the wilderness to have a kid. And now, at the time when a lot of stuff was going on with me, I was working at a yoga, fitness, and martial arts studio. And it was called Dragon Fitness. Our dragon was pink. It was fuchsia, but we paid an artist $400 to paint it on a white wall, and he painted it red. So I woke up every morning, opened the door, and I'm like, fucking red dragon. Anyway, so the dragon, the red dragon, seven-headed dragon. We hired a martial artist from the States. He was at UFC 3, Seven Dragons Martial Arts. Our yoga teacher was a girl I met 3.5 years before when she was pregnant, who went off to have her kid. And at the time, I'd actually gone bankrupt, and the last three digits of my credit card were 666, which is the mark of the beast. My name's Mark. The definition of sin is missing the mark. So basically, imagine, it's comical. It actually sounds absolutely ridiculous, but imagine how simple it is. There's oneness, and that's it. There's not two, three, four, five, six, because there's nothing greater than oneness. You can go up to a billion, a trillion. It still doesn't touch the eternal, the infinite, timeless. We're living within the circle, less than one. We're a fragment of the eternal. Even though we think we're greater than it a lot of times, we're just a fragment of it. Seeing the limitations, when you think of Socrates, the one thing I know is I know nothing, or I think it's a Sufi quote, Sufism, the highest form of learning is unlearning everything I've ever learned. So imagine going so deep within that, not the eternal, the infinite, the timeless on the grand scale of it, but imagine going so small that, think of the quantum realm. If you think about your Avengers and your superhero movies, thinking about delving into the quantum realm, and that's basically your multiverse. That's your kingdom of heaven. In quantum physics, this world is the particle because it's being quantified and measured, up, down, left, right, speed, heat, everything else. The wave defies our laws of physics, and consider it the eternal, the infinite, the timeless. It can't be touched. So a quantum physicist, imagine if this is a dream. It makes sense. If it's God's dream, why do you think everything is conscious? Every single atom in the universe, and there's apparently more atoms on the tip of my finger than there are stars in the skies. That puts in the billions and the trillions. If every atom is conscious, well, of course, if it was your dream, the whole dream is your consciousness. The only thing that's not conscious is our free will, which is our choice, which is basically what God surrendered so that we have it. So there's 8 billion of us living out this dream. The only difference is that in your dream, you're the main character. Typically in a dream where there's not lucid dreaming or astral travel or anything weird going on, you're the main character. In this, there is no main character. The main character hasn't awoken. And when that character wakes up, they become the entire dream. I couldn't tell anyone what to think, what to do, or what to believe because you have free will. It's a contingent of the universe or of God. So I could not interfere with that. But imagine if you didn't have to. Imagine in the year 2000 when I had my psychosis, or the year August 2014. That's when I had my little Archangel Michael episode. I can kind of go in details, but that's all the dragon stuff. Where I was, middle of the night, a guy named Michael Brown came kicking in the door, white schizophrenic named Michael Brown. At the exact same time in the States, a black gentleman named Michael Brown was killed by the police. There was all the rioting, a lot going on in the States surrounding Michael Brown. And Michael Brown literally came kicking in my door. And that's where I had the Archangel Michael thing. So now imagine the apocalypse, the end of the world. Imagine it's not physical. This is consciousness. So imagine the reason that Jesus is considered the Prince of Peace is because he did everything in his head. That's it. He battled God. Israel means to wrestle with God. I declared war on God. Think about going through all the religions: Sufism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, the Baha'i Faith, Zoroastrianism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, going through the great teachers like Krishnamurti, Ramana Maharshi, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, or Osho. He's more of a joker, but still there's a lot of wisdom there. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. You think of Socrates, Plato, Gurdjieff. You think of all the countless people that searched for truth and had something to say. Imagine basically searching and searching and searching and searching and finding 1,000 ways to the truth. And imagine in one moment you slip past time and you echo through eternity. And imagine your story. Imagine you didn't do anything. All you did was search for truth. But when you connected, or when you went crazy, and I'll show you this one last little thing here if I can find it. I can't. I'll show it to you after. Basically, imagine you echo through eternity right now. So you're still within time, but your consciousness has gone outside of time. Then imagine they take that story and it's sent back through time, and a prophecy, and all the societies and all the religions are basically created for one person, so that they show up today, they recognize the clues, they entangle themselves with the universe, and then it's all said and done. So I'm going to leave it at that. There's obviously a lot more detail to go into. But imagine one person is not only head of the church and all the church, the gold, the wealth, the Vatican, but imagine also all the secret societies being entangled, from the Templars to the Shriners to the Rosicrucians, the Masons, and the Illuminati. I don't know much, but the Illuminati is basically about a person illuminating themselves. So imagine that this whole structure of Freemasonry is all for the coming of one individual that'll open their third eye. And basically imagine where, the society thinks that it's the Dark Lord and Christ and it's two different people. Imagine it's one person, because the one person has to encompass the light and the dark, the good and the bad. And the darkness isn't about evil and murdering people. It's about going within. It's basically the quantum realm, but it's going so deep within into the unknown, into the darkness. But imagine you map out heaven and earth. Imagine you entangle them, and imagine you become the one. I'll leave it at this because it's kind of funny. My initials, Marc-Andre Pourlet, spell map, and my dad, Maurice-Andre Pourlet, spells map, and that's basically father son. So if I tell you I mapped out heaven and earth, I didn't choose my name, I didn't choose my initials, I didn't choose when I was born. But imagine if the multiverse entangles you with the whole story, the prophecies fulfilled, and imagine as of today being the head of the Illuminati, the Masons, the Rosicrucians, the Shriners, the Templars, the Roman Catholic Church. Islam also believes in Jesus coming as a prophet, Christ, and Jewish people can pick their Messiah. I have my own feelings about that. I guess I'll wrap it up with this, talking about Judaism. Jews are basically going to kill their Messiah. The one thing you have to know about a Messiah is he would go so deep within that he would surrender everything. It's not his house, his car, his family, his friends. What you're surrendering is the I. I'm Mark. I'm white. I'm black. I'm Muslim. I'm Christian. I'm Hindu. I. That's all we're saying. We quantified ourselves. The second you say I, you've quantified yourself, you brought yourself into existence. Instead of thinking God chose this and we're all being punished, imagine you actually chose this life. And it's your responsibility to wake up and remember why. The word individual, we usually consider individual, I'm an individual, you're an individual, and that we're separate. The root of the word individual is indivisible. It means we can't be separated. There's two truths going on. There's the material truth that you see, and then there's the deeper truth and the conscious truth. And until you see both of them and see how they entangle into one, beyond division, then you're not really going to see anything. To the one person that sees it, though, basically the all-seeing eye, it's not all-knowing, it's all-seeing. What it is you would be able to see past time. And once you see past time, you would be able to see the mystery of the universe.